What you're looking at right now is a live look over Jerusalem as folks there are staying on alert, essentially hoping to remain safe here after we've seen this back and forth between Israel and Iran. Now, if you are just joining us and kind of catching up here, I do want to go over just some of the basics. Israel launching a wave of strikes across Iran earlier today that targeted its nuclear program and military sites, killing at least 2 top military officers and raising the prospect of an all-out war between the two bitter Middle East adversaries. It appeared to be the most significant attack Iran has faced since the 1980s. The strikes came amid simmering tensions over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program and appeared certain to trigger a reprisal. Hours later, Israel's military said it had started intercepting Iranian drones launched in retaliation. That is estimated to be about 100 of those drones. I do want to take you out here to some comments that were made by the IDF as they explained exactly where things stand.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the State of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the State of Israel.
All right, so a very brief statement right there from the Israel Defense Forces posted on social media as we gather all of the details that are coming in to our newsroom, and a lot of updates here over the past several hours as all of this did unfold. We had Andrew Kraft and Austin Westfall, who were on the air at the time, again, watching it all unfold and bringing you all of the latest details. I do want to bring you just some of the video of the aftermath here. This is from just a couple hours ago over in Iran after that preemptive strike that was fired by Israel. Again, you can see the flashing lights there and damage to several buildings. A lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Ruth Wasserman-Landi, a former member of the Knesset, and she does have several different titles and wears several different hats, joining us right now. Thank you so much, Ruth, for taking the time to be here. I know all of this is developing, and we want to make sure, of course, that you do stay safe.
Yes, thank you for having me on board. And yes, it's quite a challenging time, but please God, Israel will persevere.
And can you explain to me overall the significance of all of this?
Absolutely. Iran, in fact, not Iran, the Islamic regime of Iran has made very, very clear over years that it wants to destroy the State of Israel, that it has an antagonistic and very challenging view about what should become of the State of Israel. And that is because it wants hegemony over the Islamic world. Having said that, that's only declarative. But in terms of capability, it's been building its nuclear arsenal for years. We've been warning this. The IAEI, in other words, the roof organization or the body that has been supervising, in inverted commas, the capabilities of Iran in the nuclear sphere, has only recently come out and unprecedentedly said that Iran has been hiding. We've been saying saying this for years, but the IAEI, that obviously there is no fear that it is biased towards Israel, has come out very, very recently and said that Iran has been hiding significant developments in terms of its nuclear capabilities. And Israel has also sought that information and, in fact, exposed it worldwide. And in coordination with the American administration, has done the universe a kind of a, I would say, a huge step towards humanity and taken out much of the capability of the Iranian regime, also as a gesture for the Iranian people that have been suffering for decades from this particular regime.
And I do want to pop this up on your screen because this right here is actually coming in from the Israel Defense Forces. They provided us this video kind of showing how all of this did play out, the areas that were struck by the IDF and other military there. You can see them highlighted in red, but what you're going to see in a second are a few of the fatalities there that were reported. Now, again, this is coming from the IDF here, and the actual statement they released said, quote, "We can now confirm that the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, Commander of the IRGC, and the Commander of Iran's Emergency Command were all eliminated in the Israeli strikes across Iran by more than 200 fighter jets. These are three ruthless mass murderers with international blood on their hands. The world is a much better place without them." Want to get your take on that, especially the death of the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
So this is a very important point that you make, because as you had very cleverly mentioned, this is very precise and very, very specific. The Israeli government, the Israeli people, the Israeli military has absolutely nothing against the Iranian people. On the contrary, but it has to take out those people that threatened and actively were involved and threatened and built the capabilities against not only Israel, but Israel was just the first step, but in fact, the West in general. And the strikes, if you notice, were very, very precise against those people in the first steps of this, I would say, kind of campaign. And if you notice in the pictures, these are blocks of flats. Not only the entire block was not taken out, in other words, the neighbors were left safe, but the very specific flats or apartments of those people were taken out. And you can see that in the pictures that you are showing online, which is exactly the point. The Israeli government is out to protect itself and its civilians and its citizens. There's no politics here. There's no left, there's no right. This is a humanitarian and a humane step in order to preserve the people of Israel and the state of Israel. And this is what we all feel very, very significantly as a mother with the children in the safe room. We are not moving from our homes. This is what I can tell the world. The world is certainly a better place.
On that note, can you explain what it's like for folks right now that are there in Israel? Because again, 100 plus drones launched by Iran toward Israel in retaliation. It sounds as though the IDF is saying the drones were intercepted, but what is it like right now as folks do brace for the possibility of retaliation?
So first of all, we were awakened in the middle of the night. We were told to go into the safe rooms, ourselves, our children, our dogs, whoever we need to keep safe, to make sure that we have water and so on. We were told later, and that's what we tell our children with a smile, trying to remain calm, that there will be a retaliation. There is an expectation of a retaliation. In fact, the number of drones that were sent exceed 100. And yes, we were told that they were intercepted. However, we do expect to have more of a retaliation. And therefore, the entire country is actually on its hind legs, awaiting for the retaliation and really taking care to be near safe rooms.
What role at this point does it appear that the U.S. played in the coordination of this, the de-escalation before or after the strike? Is there much of U.S. involvement, or does it appear that this is mostly what we're looking at, kind of an Israel operation?
So certainly this is an Israel operation. There was no cooperation on the ground or in the operation itself with the US. However, this is completely a concerted effort and a coordinated effort of two allies that are keen to protect the world, the moderate Western world, and those who want to be allied with it, from forces like the Iranian regime. Again, not the Iranian people, but the Iranian regime. And there was full coordination. In fact, one could see many messages going out of the US concerning their own personnel in embassies throughout the region, throughout the very, very wide region, and also other moves that were made on the ground by US forces in preparation, but not in an actual de facto effort in the operation itself. Perhaps that would come at a later stage.
And there are a lot of questions, obviously, all of this developing here at this hour. And you kind of touched on it. But my last question for you, I did want to get kind of your take on how Israel is making sure that civilians are not injured or killed. It does seem as though everything was done in a way that targeted the specific targets there. But I do want to get your take kind of overall.
So I can say as proudly as possible, the Israeli government, the Israeli IDF, the Israeli people in general, as an Israeli and as a mother, not as a right winger, a left winger, or any other political stance, takes unprecedented effort not to hurt civilians in general. There is a huge, huge campaign against Israel in that sense, in all of its war efforts. But on the contrary, Israel takes unprecedented steps to try and not hurt civilians. And it is very obvious to people who understand in warfare and to experts, not Jewish experts, not Israeli experts, but rather American, British, and other, that there is a kind of a consequence to this policy of not hurting civilians. Of course, God forbid, in a war, sometimes civilians get hurt, and that is a tragedy. But that is not only the policy, humongous steps are being taken and precautions not to hurt civilians, and the results are obvious, not those that are portrayed by the Israel haters and the demonstrators that are funded by Muslim Brotherhood, by Qatar, by Hamas and others, but by real statistics. The real statistics, not what is shown on Pallywood and others, show exactly the opposite. That yes, there are tragically people that are being hurt, but many, many precautions are being taken, and as few people as possible are to be hurt, and the results are obvious in this Iranian campaign.
My last question for you here, I know I said the last one was the last question, but I did want to ask you what you hope folks can kind of take away as they are watching this. There is a lot of misinformation that does go around about the situation in general. So what do you hope that folks who are watching right now will be able to take away from this?
One of the main issues that I'd like people to try and understand, even though the vast majority of the population throughout the world is bombarded with disinformation, is the following. This is not a fight between Islam and Judaism, or the Arabs and Israel, or the Muslims and Israel. That's not the case. The case is very simply radical Islam, not every single Muslim on the face of the planet, radical Islam, either Shiite, as being led by the Iranian regime, or Sunni, like Qatar, like the Muslim Brotherhood. For example, Erdogan, the president of Turkey, and others, Hamas, and so on, against the free world. So people who want to live with freedom, with equality, with free speech, that's not whom you align with, because they play you against what is true. And truth is very simply to protect those people that actually want peace, want equality, want freedom, want equal rights, like the vast majority of the American population, like Israeli civilians, like other countries in the region, for example, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and so on. So this is the real fight. And this is the fight that Israel is at the forefront of, actually fighting the fight for the world. And I know it sounds dramatic, but this is dramatic.
All right, Ruth, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us and help discuss all of this further. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless.
And of course, I do want to remind you that we are going to have extensive coverage as we get new developments. We'll make sure to bring those to you here on Live Now from Fox. We also know coming up at 11 a.m. Eastern time, around that time, that is when President Trump is expected to meet with the National Security Council all about this. There is going to be discussion about everything that happened and what could happen here in the future, as, of course, those nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran are pretty much in limbo right now. The talks were expected to continue tomorrow, but it's not clear if that will still happen. Again, 11 a.m. Eastern time, that is when the Security Council will come together with President Trump. And it appears that that will be, of course, a closed-door meeting. But if we do get any comments from the president, we will bring those to you live, raw, and uninterrupted here on Live Now from Fox. Now, we do also have this comment from President Trump posted a short time ago on Truth Social, as he says, "We remain committed to a diplomatic resolution to the Iran nuclear issue. My entire administration has been directed to negotiate with Iran. They could be a great country, but they first must completely give up hopes of obtaining a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter."